Yo, what is up everybody, it's Jiraiya and welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we got an all new video about the great Swagkage, and as you can tell by the title, this is Could Jiraiya Beat the Akatsuki? Alright, so looking at this title, my instant reaction and thought process is, well, there's an obvious answer. And the answer is no, right? Jiraiya couldn't even defeat half the Path of Pain. So how would it be possible that he could defeat the entire Akatsuki at large? It's impossible, right? But as always, I must give the nod to Swagkage with the visually and mentally appealing titles, right? Because he's appealing to the casuals with this one, clearly, because in my opinion, it is an obvious answer to this question. Like I said, the answer is no, right? He would not defeat the entire Akatsuki. But Swag is very good at what he does. I'm sure he's going to make this video very interesting and of course give the right conclusion. He usually does. And I'm very intrigued to see what he has to say about this one. But before I begin, any loves really appreciate, hit that like button, turn on bell notification to stay updated with yours truly. And if you're new and you enjoy and you mess with a kid, man, make sure to hit that sub button, because once you do, become part of the family forever. But it's not wasting more time, screen. See what Swag says about this one.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here, and today I've brought with me my good friend, Seth the Programmer.
All right.
Seth the Programming here. How's it going?
Nothing like really the original duo.
Yeah, true. nice to have you.
So this is one of the few times where I actually feel like the title isn't completely self-explanatory.
Interesting.
So we're gonna be talking about Jiraiya versus the Akatsuki, of course, but it's not like Jiraiya versus the entire Akatsuki at once. That would be a little weird. I guess we can get into like if he could beat certain groups, like two-man teams or whatever, if we have time. But we're generally going to be going over like one-on-one matchups.
Okay, that's better.
Obviously, Jiraiya loses to Pain.
Actually, if he knew his secret, he would have won.
Jiraiya would not beat Pain if they fought. Just something tells me that that's probably not how it would go. I hope we get to see them fight sometime.
Yeah, hopefully.
The next ones, some of these are really easy. Others are like really tough.
Let's see.
I think that most of us can agree Jiraiya would probably beat Hidan up.
If Hidan is the admitted slowest of the Akatsuki, and Jiraiya can react to Conan, who is not the slowest, then yeah.
Like Jiraiya fought Conan, beat her up, like in base.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Versus Conan, pretty easy.
So we know he would beat Conan, especially in Sage mode, because he beat her in base. So that kind of takes care of that. Now maybe if she had the 600 billion paper bomb prep, that fight would go a little bit different, because obviously Jiraiya can't use Izanagi or anything like that. So if he like falls into the sea, like for some reason steps onto the water, and then she opens the sea of paper bombs below him, then yeah, he'd probably lose. But against normal, non-Batman prep Conan, Jiraiya wins like 10 out of 10. So now, this is where we kind of get into slightly more difficult territory, but I think that Deidara and Kakazu are dubs for Jiraiya. They're a little bit more difficult, but I don't think that they're anything that Jiraiya, especially in like Sage mode, wouldn't be able to handle. So the Storm Revolution Ninja Escapades cutscenes are not canon, but Kishimoto did supervise the story, which means that he had a direct hand in writing some of those encounters, like for example Conan versus Sasori. And Conan beat Sasori, and Sasori's stronger than Deidara. So if you think that Conan is above Sasori because Kishimoto seems to think Conan is above Sasori, then like Jiraiya's beating up Deidara and Sasori in base, much less in Sage mode. Now, it's a little bit trickier, like if you don't use that direct comparison, but there's other databook stuff that makes it more clear too, right? Now, I didn't like this statement at first. Eventually, Six convinced me to chill out. But there's a statement about like Jiraiya's power in Sage mode surpassing all 5 nations and stuff like that. Him being stronger than all the Gokage, like that kind of crazy stuff. And in that case, Jiraiya should be above Gaara, who like he didn't lose badly to Deidara. And he also then got stronger by the time the 5 Kage Summit and the war rolled around. And he still seemed to be weaker than A and Onoki. So, like, if Jiraiya is stronger than both of them, then this should firmly put him above Deidara.
In my opinion, I like to think that if you imply that Jiraiya and Orochimaru are equals, that Orochimaru and Jiraiya are probably relative, or if not above the level of Sasuke that could already beat Deidara anyway. The only difference is that, unlike Sasuke, who is close to very short mid-range, Jiraiya and Orochimaru are a lot longer range than he is, which allows them to have more of an upper hand against Deidara. There's also this implication that Orochimaru did not fear Sasori at all, and even when Sasori was trying to spy on Orochimaru, he was aware of it. There's this pseudo-rivalry where it seems that Orochimaru was very confident in taking him, and even was going to assassinate him at one point. The only other thing is that it also seemed in those scenes that Orochimaru had zero fear when it came to Deidara. And I would just argue that due to that Sasuke scaling, that Jiraiya probably is that level, at least relative enough to fight in that battle,
right?
In which, you know, Toad Song and all kinds of things.
But yeah,
just
that
kinda,
goes off there.
It like just kind of like there's just so many win cons for Jiraiya, and he probably, like, due to scaling to Sasuke and Orochimaru, probably has the reaction speed and the smarts and the senses just to survive long enough. Maybe if a crazy bomb went off or something,
right?
But who knows? You know, he could also reverse summon himself. Or
oh, he definitely
something,
could. Couldn't he put himself in, like, the belly of the frog, right? Like
yeah,
he did
exactly.
in the fight against
Correct.
Pain. So he has, like, escape mechanisms.
He might be able to just
up.
like teleport Deidara into that realm while he blows
Yeah.
up. So one thing about Jiraiya is that he has such an arsenal of hacks abilities that just nobody really seems to talk about for some reason.
Correct.
Which helps him a lot with
I agree.
these fights. Now, as for the Kakuzu fight, I do think that Jiraiya is more like a Kakuzu level for me personally. Yeah, I think that one's a lot harder for me to decide on. As you guys know, I think Pain is stronger than Kakuzu. But,
of course.
You know, I also think Pain is a lot stronger than Jiraiya, so it's not really any statement for me. So I would say that Jiraiya is closer to Kakuzu than to Pain, in my opinion.
I agree.
For the most part.
Yes.
I agree with that. I think that Pain's like way, way above him.
Yeah, and something that kind of supports that is you have Kakashi fight a Pain, and he fights the strongest Pain.
I talked about this before.
He actually fights the Pain that ripped Jiraiya's arm off, as well as the Honcho Pain. So he fights stronger Pains than Jiraiya and Sage Mode did. Not to say he beats Sage Jiraiya, but, you know, just an example. And this Kakashi just got done kind of losing to Kakuzu without his MS, give or take. You know, they were somewhat relative-ish, with Kakuzu slightly superior. Of course, Kakashi could always whip out his MS, as he implied, but, you know, the Sharingan Kakashi that fought Kakuzu was also, you know, shortly later fighting, you know, stronger Pains. So yes, I do think that Sage Jiraiya probably is more like that tier than Pain. So I do think that it's a debatable subject. So
agreed.
Obviously, we know Naruto beat Kakuzu, and Naruto believes that in order to beat somebody who killed Jiraiya, he's going to have to learn Sage Mode. Like, I think that Sage Jiraiya is still way stronger than that Rasen Shuriken Kakuzu battle Naruto.
Really?
I don't think a whole lot of people would disagree with that.
But I do think that the thematic argument of him needing to learn Sage Mode to surpass his mentor probably makes a lot of sense, and it's probably what Kishimoto was going for. So if we're talking to the comments, I would say that makes sense. Yeah, sure. But you know.
Now, Sasori is a character that I don't know how to scale this fella. I really like Sasori. I want to be able to gas him up. I'm a Sasori goon. I have Sasori pretty high on the tier list that I made a couple of months ago. In fact, I believe Sasori is above Sage Jiraiya. You can take this or leave this if you want. Seth already went over some arguments that put Jiraiya above Sasori, which I think are totally valid. The main reason for Sasori is it's stuff that I've talked about before, right? It's like all the third Kazekage stuff, how the third Kazekage is like stronger than Gaara, and also stronger than Rasa, who Gaara was like relative to, and Gaara's not that far behind the other Kage, I would say, during the war, and Sasori did it without that puppet, which is like his greatest asset. But there are a lot of like Sasori anti-feats out there. Like even though he like let Chiyo and Sakura kill him, there are times where it does look like he's genuinely trying to kill them and Sakura is just like...
Yeah, there's blatantly a moment where he is monologuing about wanting to kill one of the characters. So it's like he's not putting on an act unless he is putting up some kind of like Joker level performance where he has to convince himself, or he's like, oh, I should think this just in case one of them can read minds or something, which is insanely absurd to assume.
I agree.
Yeah, but
it's absurd.
If you think of that, then sure, like he was suppressed the whole time, but like he was straight up monologuing at one point, and Sakura was able to evade his attacks. And we know that Sasuke at the start of Shippuden is way stronger than her. So, and then it takes Curse Mark 2 plus amps for Sasuke to reach Sannin level. So, you know, it's kind of like, other than that, I guess Kisame is...
Kisame is really hard, because that guy is strong, dude.
So, okay, first thing, if you think that Kisame said that the Sannin make 7 Ninja Swordsmen look bad, and he was making this assumption based off of how strong Orochimaru was when he was in the Akatsuki, then Jiraiya smacks him up, like probably very easily. But if you think that maybe he was just making an assumption about their titles based on how hard like Hanzo is like wanking them to the world to make them popular, then it's a bigger debate.
I also think that you can totally discount that statement from Kisame, because even Kishimoto has said before that Kisame kind of exists in Itachi's shadow. Itachi was the first one to say they should run, and Itachi also did use Amaterasu to get out of it.
Alright, so I was not going to talk about it, but we have to talk about Sasori real quick, alright? Now, he's a very difficult individual to try and power scale because there's two sides of the coin. One, he beat the third Kazekage, who stated to be the strongest, meaning he's stronger than Raza, who was relative to Gaara in the war arc. So that puts him at a very high level, right? And a tier close to that of Jiraiya, right? So the other side of the coin is he lost to Sakura, and like Seth pointed out, there was blatant moments where he was concerned and wanted to kill these individuals, meaning he had the intent to kill, meaning he wasn't able to defeat Chiyo and Sakura, who Sasuke would absolutely body, who with CS2 plus amps is around Sannin level, meaning he's levels above Sasori, hence Jiraiya's levels above Sasori. There's two sides of the coin. There really is. Honestly, even with the Kazekage scaling, if you want to revere that and accept that, I still think Jiraiya is above that. Honestly, I honestly do. I believe Gaara, overall, is one of the weaker Kages. The Raikage is above him, Tsunade is above him, and Onoki is probably above him. He's probably far stronger than the Mizukage, who's fodder, but the other three, I believe, he's not on their level. They do more against some pretty powerful opponents, right? Keep in mind, Onoki was seconds away from annihilating Sasuke in the 5 Kage Summit, right? Obviously, that was a more fatigued Sasuke. However, it seemed that Sasuke did not have the adequate reaction times to react to Onoki. Obito had to. And keep in mind, that's the same Sasuke that was reacting to the second the fourth Raikage, excuse me, right? Gaara's below all that. So the scaling can be negated somewhat. It's still contentious, but Sasori would not defeat Jiraiya. It's highly, highly unlikely. Their very fight against Sakura and Chiyo is enough to substantiate that. He was pressed by them, right? He was pressed by them. It's as simple as that. Yeah, the poison was a big aspect, right? That gave him a disability, so to speak, because Sakura had the antidote to his poison. But if he was so powerful, then he would have defeated them if he was really at that level, right? Stronger than Gaara, who was relative to Deidara to some extent, who was trying to protect the village. So it's very contentious. It's very, very contentious. I tend to believe Jiraiya would defeat Sasori with not too much effort, to be honest. Would it be a one-shot? Absolutely not. He would definitely respect him. The poison would be a problem. But with Sage Mode, I think he has adequate reaction times to evade all that. Maybe even send Sasori to the Toad's stomach. Do what he has to do against this guy. His hacks would be the difference. His reaction times, etc. It's pretty clear, in my opinion. But some people really, really try to give Sasori the benefit of the doubt. Nothing wrong with that. Is it completely invalid to say these things? No, it's not. I think it's the lesser of the two evils, so to speak. I think Sasori isn't that powerful as people like to make him out to be, even though I really like Sasori as well. It's just not. It's not the most sound proof argument, in my opinion. But let's continue.
The frog belly, right?
Yeah.
Like, Kisame sees Itachi like busting his ass, and is probably just like, oh shit.
He had to use the Mangekyo Sharingan. Like, wow.
Yeah, like he has no reason to believe that Itachi is like mega mind, like 4D chess lying to him, and like an undercover like Onbu agent. Or
I
like
forgot
whatever.
which game it was. It's been a while, but there was some game cutscenes that were actually canon, like confirmed to be TV.
Oh yeah,
canon.
it's I think it's Generations, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I brought this one up. So yeah, Generation, something like that. One of them was canon, but it shows Itachi versus Kisame fighting, and the second Kisame forces Itachi to whip out the MS. Kisame's like, oh wow, that's good enough for me just to see you whip out that eye, like wowie,
Yeah.
So for him to see Jiraiya whip out that eye, he's like, wow, that guy must be stronger than me. But something I just thought of right now is the fact he made Itachi whip out the MS.
Yeah.
When Orochimaru got pointed at, like he didn't.
Yeah.
And Jiraiya is Orochimaru's equal. That's one thing about Kisame that makes him so hard to scale, and I had a problem with this in my Akatsuki ranking video. It was that, the thing about Kisame is that while his base stats are actually not the most crazy, the stronger his opponent is, the stronger he becomes. So
I agree.
It really depends on, how long you think he could fight and how, long Jiraiya would toy with him. If Jiraiya's like instant frog song or maybe instant massive Rasengan to him, maybe it would like heavily damage him. How much chakra can Samehada just absorb, and is Kisame fast enough to react to Sage Jiraiya? Like, do you think Sage Jiraiya is, say, as fast as Base Killer B or something like that? Because Kisame could react to Base Killer B, so you have to think about things like that when you're thinking of the battle. And
so this is a hard.
It's a very tough one.
50 for both of them. So
now who else are we missing? Obito. That's no difficulty. We don't need to
Obito,
talk about
obviously.
We can talk about Itachi. Actually, we can talk about Itachi. So
Sure.
a lot of people are gonna be like, but Itachi, but Itachi
Lord.
ran away from Base
Oh
Jiraiya.
god.
Talking
I know.
about
There's
this
always
in
those
my
people.
Itachi video, every Itachi collab in existence that has remotely mentioned Jiraiya.
Yeah.
It's just his character, not wanting to go all out and kill Jiraiya, who's taking care of Naruto and all of them. He doesn't actually want to get Naruto as much as they're acting. It's clearly just, a ploy. We know that for sure.
Correct.
He didn't even go all out against Sasuke. Like Obito had to break the ice. Like, did you know Itachi could have killed you at any moment? Like he wanted. So if Itachi can do all that, he can certainly play it up that Jiraiya is stronger than he thinks too. And this is the main argument. This is how it goes. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, Itachi points at Orochimaru. Okay, points at him, puts him into a genjutsu so crazy as a 14-year-old that Orochimaru
He shits his pants.
Years
shits
later,
himself.
when he's strong enough to fight the strongest Kage with Edo Tensei summonings, doesn't want to scrap with Itachi remotely until he gets his own Sharingan from his stolen brother's body, and is just so devastated by getting pointed at with one finger, says, I can never beat Itachi. He's too strong. And Sasuke himself is like, yeah, me and Orochimaru might need to fuse our bodies to be able to take him.
Exactly.
It's clearly demonstrated that Itachi is above the Sannin in terms of power. That's
It's
the
obvious.
whole point. Pain
fucking
and
crystal
Itachi
clear.
are the above Sannin level endgame pre-war bosses for Naruto and Sasuke. That is the whole point.
Precisely.
Just being straight up honest. It's just so clear to me.
It's very funny that Itachi goes to the Leaf Village, where Naruto is, literally infiltrates it and starts eating in a restaurant undercover. Nobody spots him, right? And then fights with everybody outside, but he specifically waits until Naruto and Jiraiya are supposed to be together.
I think it's also something you need to think about from Itachi's perspective is, how is he going to convince Obito he was genuinely struggling? Because Black Zetsu and Obito are probably not going to be convinced that someone like Kakashi, who seems to be weaker than Orochimaru, who he pointed away, scared him away from the village. It just doesn't seem likely. So someone like Jiraiya seems more likely for what it's worth, at least to him. But it's just... the whole thing is weird, because everything Itachi does is an act. Even when he's messing up Kakashi's like, why didn't he just kill me already? What? What? So yeah, even since the very beginning, he just messes around.
It was all a facade. It was all an act, right?
Anything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I want to know comments. What do you think Jiraiya can do to bust through the Yada mirror? Give me a... and how is he resisting the Totsuka blade?
The only thing that Jiraiya could do to Itachi is frog song him. But I mean, if you were to be in a genuine matchup, Itachi has 99% more win cons than Jiraiya does.
Correct.
Just more than likely just wins. Not to say Jiraiya just can't possibly win. Apparently he could possibly beat Pain if everything went perfectly. So sure, he could probably beat Itachi if everything went perfectly, but more than likely Itachi just stomps him out. So
correct.
Yeah. And so then there's Obito, which Seth mentioned.
Let's be honest.
Come on, man.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
Come on.
It's a stop.
Do you actually come on, bro?
We don't need to go over that.
It's not even a discussion.
Minato thinks that
I was about to say,
is just more intimidating than Pain.
Correct.
Yeah.
Minato thinks that 14-year-old yellow mask Obito
It's fucking moderate.
is stronger
would require
than Pain.
Nine Tails Jinchuriki mode, by the way.
Yeah.
He doesn't think Sage Naruto could do it. It would take
he thinks that Sage mode isn't enough. He's like, no, you need to master the Nine Tails. So
yeah,
exactly.
He's seen him fight Kakuzu. He's seen him fight Pain. He's seen all of. He's like, nope, you need Nine Tails mode, buddy. Not happening. So that's just as clear as it gets.
So okay, Jiraiya has about a 66%, maybe 50-50. Definitely auto loses to 3. Might lose to 1, and beats the other 5.
It's almost just like Orochimaru, he could join the Akatsuki, but he wouldn't be the strongest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he'd be in the middle ranks. Yep.
Yeah, it's perfect. He'd be right there, next to Kisame, where Orochimaru is, everybody's Akatsuki list. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Crazy how that shakes out. Thanks for coming. Everybody make sure you go subscribe to Seth. Subscribe to the channel, too, if you want more Naruto
Great
content.
stuff. I completely agree with all that was said. Besides the Sasori stuff.
Wrong that was really egregious.
Which Seth doesn't agree with, of course.
I need a 10-hour response video now. Make the response videos now. Drop them.
Yeah, tell us all our arguments are edgy and not... Yeah, no, get Susan from YouTube to publicly laugh at us and tell us we can't scale Naruto.
And then have her delete our channels for making such a dumb argument about Jiraiya scaling.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Peace out, guys. All right, that's the video. Definitely want to give my take on this. First of all, great scaling, great scaling. I really liked what was said in this one. I completely agree with just about everything. Just about everything. Again, besides the Sasori stuff, which Seth didn't agree with as well, which I tend to agree with him. Right, so Jiraiya would essentially, like they said at the end of the video, be around the same rank as Orochimaru was when he was in the Akatsuki, respectively. Right, he'd be amongst the middle ranks, right, in between Kisame and probably Kakazu or around there, like in between those two. And there's an argument to be made if it could be Kisame or not, right? Now let's discuss Kisame. That's the most contentious one, clearly. Kisame was able to compete with Killer Bee, who is relative to the Raikage, right? Now the question is Jiraiya stronger than the Raikage, right? Is he stronger? Well, if you want to accept the presupposition that Orochimaru and Jiraiya are relative, right, then you would kind of be accepting that he is relative to Old Man Hiruzen, right? Because it was pretty implied that they were relative. You could argue that Hiruzen was slightly superior due to him having to fight Edo Tensei's plus Orochimaru. However, there is the notion that people tend to agree with, which is that both were holding back because they had some sense of care for each other, right? I would argue Hiruzen more so than Orochimaru. Orochimaru seemed to be the most vile version of himself in that, so I doubt he was holding back too much. I think Hiruzen was. He still had some care and a little bit of a soft spot for his old people, right? So I would say Hiruzen is slightly superior to Orochimaru, hence Jiraiya. And he was the strongest Kage, even in his old age, amongst the 5 Kage, meaning he's stronger than the 4th Raikage, right? So I tend to believe that the Raikage was somewhat relative to Tsunade, who I believe is weaker than both Jiraiya and Orochimaru, to be honest with you. So I would say Jiraiya would probably defeat Kisame. It would be a very tough battle. However, you know that Samehada is quite a problem. It's quite a problem. It can eat your chakra up. You saw it happen to Killer Bee using his cloak version. I believe he went up to version 2 and still got eaten up. But then Samehada went to him, right? So I doubt Jiraiya has the level of chakra, though, that Killer Bee had. Keep that in mind. So it's very, very contentious. I slightly tend to lean towards Jiraiya in that one. But there probably is arguments to be made for Kisame, right? There probably is. But all in all, he's in the middle ranks. He's the 4th or 5th strongest. That's the bottom line. He gets fodderized by Itachi. Let's be honest. Itachi fucking clapped Orochimaru like he was fucking just toying with the guy. Looked him in the fucking eye, made him shit his pants. He never touched him again. Never even tried to. Not even tried to have some devious plot to trick him. He never fucked with him again. He shit his pants and ran away, which you never see the guy do. He's a fearless monster. That's what Orochimaru is. Even against the likes of Sasori and all that. Which again implies that Sasori is not as strong as people think he is. That's just another argument. Orochimaru's not fucking scared of him. He was using Kabuto as a double agent, pretending that Kabuto was working for fucking Sasori, knowing that Kabuto was loyal to him because he's stronger than Sasori, most likely. Or at least relative. So, Sasori's not as strong as people think, I'm sorry. Pain, come on. He would fucking destroy him. Obito, I don't have to say anything about that. It's fucking obvious. But, yeah, I think this was a great video. And again, Swag is very good at appealing to the masses. He made it interesting. He always does. Obviously, Jiraiya versus the entire Akatsuki would have been a joke because he would get fucking destroyed, right? So, this was the best way to approach it. The only groups, let's just scrub duos real quick. The only duos he probably could defeat would probably be like the weakest you can think of, like Hidan and Zetsu. Even Hidan and Kakazu would be a problem for Jiraiya, I think. I don't think he would defeat them together. It's possible. Deidara and Sasori. That's a tough one as well. Yeah, I think duos would even be a problem for him. Because he's in that range of power, right? The Akatsuki range, which is a pretty broad one. You got, Zetsu all the way up to Obito, unless you want to revere his feat against Ten Tails Madara, then he's fucking up here. But, you know, the point still stands. There's a range here, and Jiraiya falls in the middle. So even if he were to fight two on this side of the spectrum, the lower side of the spectrum, he'd still have trouble, even against duos, even against the weaker ones. So he probably doesn't defeat any duo of the Akatsuki besides probably the weakest, which would be like Hidan and Zetsu. If I know that's not in the show, but if that were a duo, probably beat them. Unless you, again, if you think Zetsu's on a whole different tier and he's fucking above Ten Tails Madara, which is absurd to me, but some people actually believe that shit. But all in all, that's what can be said. Jiraiya is Akatsuki level. There you have it. He's Akatsuki level blatantly. He's right in the middle. He's literally Akatsuki level, right? He's a mid-ranked Akatsuki member, just like Orochimaru was. You know, below the big three, relative to, you know, the tailless tail beast, which is Kisame. And there you guys have it. That's the answer to the question. I love the video. I think Seth and Swag, I'm glad they had a couple of, you know, friendly debates on, you know, Sasori and Kisame and stuff like that. I think that was very, very good dialogue, very good discussion, very good discourse when it comes to power scaling assessments of Jiraiya and the Akatsuki members respectively. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I thought it was a very good video. Very good video. I'm very, very pleased by it. I enjoyed every second of it. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sure most of you agree. This was a pretty well done video with some very valid points, some very logically well done power scaling assessments in this one. But again, I'm sure that some of you will disagree, especially you Kakuzu tards and the people that like to revere Sasori. There's some various interpretations out there, you know, and I respect them. Besides the Kakuzu over pain shit, that's stupid as fuck. Please stop with that shit, by the way. Kakuzu's nowhere near fucking pain. Let's fucking be honest here. Just stop with that bullshit. I don't know why that ever became a fucking trend. I think it's a more of a troll meme type bullshit thing, to be honest with you. Right? The whole Kakuzu over pain shit. It's fucking absurd, man. It's fucking absurd. Like, what the fuck? I'm starting to rant on that, but that's just fucking absurd. I hope you don't believe that shit, to be honest with you. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Let me know your opinions in the comments. No matter what they are, I'm always interested. All jokes aside, I'm always interested to see what your opinions are. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments. And I'll catch you in the next video. This is Jiraiya signing out. Peace.